up and driving a little afterwards to get myself ahead. Guess that probably goes along with the fact that I got up at 6 or 7 like I normally do and didn't start driving until about 10. Like I'm gonna have to start planning my driving so that I'm not trying to drive past my normal awake hours. I think that was my biggest mix up or not quite working things right. I usually drive between 6 a.m. and 6 or 7 p.m. or anywhere from 5 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. I guess I got myself into a routine. And even though I start later in the day, I guess it still doesn't account for the fact that I still get tired at the same time, even if I start driving later. So there's a little bit of a learning experience. There's a Tesla in front of me. I wonder if they ever went through with that whole Teslas can talk to each other with a messaging system between cars. That'd be pretty cool. Download a Tesla app, and then when you see Tesla drivers driving like idiots, you can be like, hey, stop driving like a moron. I think that'd be pretty interesting. Oh, there's another one. It cracks me up. Some of them look really low and sporty, and others look big and SUV, but they're still sedans. Headed home. Austin is never fun. Never fun. Oh wait, no, this isn't. It's not Austin. It's got the reservoir crossing. It's Dallas. That's what's got the big reservoir crossing. Oh, I know where I'm at. I know. I'm mixing things up. I think this is that bridge they were working on putting in for the second lane. That's something I gotta say that's throwing me off with Texas highways. They don't really have on-ramps and off-ramps. They just have like cut-offs and cut-ons. That was very much a learning on how to drive. Here to go to these overpasses, which are pretty nice. You don't really have to stop for local traffic, considering it's mostly through traffic. Oh, we got some constables over here on the southbound side. A constable and a cop. I get there's a difference between police, sheriffs, that's county, city, then you got state troopers, which obviously in their name is what they are. They patrol the state. Surprisingly, I've put up 3 videos, and I've had about 3 views per video. That's kind of interesting. I guess I'm entertaining somebody. I had someone leave a comment that was a link to a sex site, which is like, why? Why would you do that? Hopefully that was a bot or something, because it just, why would a person do that on a video that isn't getting lots of views? That doesn't make sense. Not that it would be any more right if I was getting more views and they did it. That just seems kind of stupid. Car trying to merge in front of me. Not that there was room for him to merge, that's why I honked. He was trying to merge between another car and me where there wasn't room. All these impatient people. The reason traffic is like this is because you keep popping in and out of lanes.
Come on over there, Elias. Hey, bud, appreciate you. Thanks again. Anytime.
Some pretty cool buildings over here in Texas. All these big cities. Don't know if I'd want to live down here. It's like 75 degrees by like 7 a.m. No, thank you. Threw me for a loop. I saw a crane's hook flowing down, and I thought it was somebody rappelling down the side of the building. All these gantry sky cranes, man, they throw you off. Oh, hot damn. He got 2. 2 for the price of 1. And he's packing. That's been interesting. He's got an AR holster on his bike. Something I've kind of always wanted to get into. I like the idea of long range shooting. I don't want to be any kind of sniper or anything. It takes more skill to shoot things at distance than it does at close. Heck, you gotta target it 20, 30 feet. Out of luck, you're gonna hit what you want to hit. When you get out to hundreds of yards, that's skill. There ain't no luck in that. Got a handgun I've probably shot a handful of times at a range. I just never seem to be home, and right around the time all this Corona stuff hit, so everybody started buying ammo like crazy, like it was gonna stop being manufactured. And I'm never home, so I try to buy it online, and the only ways to buy it online is in bulk. Like, I don't want to buy it in bulk. I can't afford $400 or $500 for ammo. Yeah, I know some people would say, well, you gotta make the money, or you gotta set aside the money. I'm not that kind of shooter, though. I'm not gonna just start stockpiling to stockpile. Like, it would be good to do, yeah. When you've got other bills. And driving the truck's been good money compared to what I had, but when you get more money, you end up getting more bills somehow. Like, I went from working at a warehouse, getting paid weekly, and having about $500 there. Other than there might be more people moving out of Nashville. Like how does that drive up property value? The fact that there's more people wanting to rent it. Like I can understand that more people wanting something, therefore you can raise the price so you can get more money for your product. But how does small town little areas that are renting their apartments that are old or smaller, they're not really upkept. Not that mine is that way, but I've seen a lot that aren't. Like they're wanting $1,200 for a 2-bedroom trailer. Just because it's in the city of the area instead of outside of the county line or whatever. Like, who can afford that in these areas? Like, I live out of Lebanon, or on the outskirts of Lebanon. There are places in Lebanon that are 2-bedroom apartments, not even houses, and they're wanting like $1,000. Like, how do people afford? Like, there's no way people can afford that live in Lebanon. Like, the jobs aren't paying that. People in Nashville might be able to afford that. But hell, the places in Nashville are probably charging twice that. It seems like inflation and everything else is twice of what income is. It's crazy. Wages have not followed inflation at all. It's ridiculous. I don't know how many things I've seen where people talk about how 2 people working 40-hour shifts can no longer afford a 2-bedroom house and utilities. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, you would think these small town areas like Lebanon and Gallatin, they would realize, okay, yeah, we have properties, and people are going to want to live in them, but they're basically driving out the locals of the area, and so they've got to go further away from the cities and further away from their jobs to find places they can live, and then those places start jacking up their rent. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I can understand some of these houses get remodeled, me a Subaru Baja. Love that idea of a station wagon with a pickup bed. But I've always had a thing for a station wagon. Like, I always loved the look of those Honda Civic wagons or the Honda Accord wagons. I can't remember which one. I want to say they made a wagon of both of them. Just one of them was a hatch and the other one was a full-on wagon. But all the wagons that Subaru, or all the Subaru wagons that I like are the older model Outbacks, to where they were low and long, and now all the ones they make are real tall and short. That's the look I want. I want the long and short. Like, I want the station wagon look, where it's not very high off the ground for the roof, but it is a freaking land yacht. Like, that is the look that I want. And then I was looking at Jeep Cherokees. I want the old square body if I get one, because I just like that look. I think that's probably why I like the Wranglers. They got that square body look still, even though it's 2021. And most cars have gone to the point where they're all as aerodynamic as possible. Yet the Wrangler is still keeping that brick look. along the other thing, like I was saying earlier. Having the cash. Which, hell, I don't see me having any other kinds of money to go out and buy a car cash in the near future. And I know right now, from last year and this year, a lot of the reason all these cars are going up in value is because all the newer cars don't have the computer chips in them, so they're sitting. So that's driving up the used car market. Do you think that would kind of scale to like what kind of car it is? SRT4 Neon, but hell, those things have gone up in value in the last couple of years too. That was my first car. It wasn't SRT4, but it was a Dodge Neon. Just about everything I know to work on cars came from that car. Definitely was a beater with a heater. Electric or manual locks, manual windows. Hell, it didn't even have a trunk top button, and it was an 02. That was crazy. Though it was funny, I could pull the key out of the ignition and go pop the hood or the trunk with it while the car was still running, because the retention lock on the ignition cylinder was wore out. It was an 02 gold neon. I had a couple fender benders in it, so the front end was all held together with zip ties and tape. Had a fender bender in it like the first 6 months of having it and had my license. Driving around town, going through a parking lot, and somebody was waving from the curb, and I looked over thinking they were waving at me, going like, who is this? And using my peripheral vision to see what was going on in front of me, and I felt my car hit the edge of a speed bump, and I was like, alright, speed bump. People don't usually just stop in the road, or the roadway in front of strip malls, so I just kind of eased up over it, going slow because I wasn't looking ahead, so I didn't want to floor over it. And popped up over the speed bump and tapped the rear, the hitch of a jacked up truck where he had the lowered hitch so that he could pick up his regular trailers even though his truck was jacked up. And all it did was dent my hood and snap off one of the radiator supports on my radiator. Well, me in the first 6 months of drive wasn't really sure about what to do and all this and that, so there was no police report, no insurance claim. Car didn't overheat or anything. Heck, it stayed running the whole time we were sitting there looking at it. Just popped off a little stability tab and left a hole in the radiator, so now it wouldn't pressurize. Yeah, I drove it that way, I think for about a week and a half, until I could get the money to order a new radiator. Just made sure I checked the water every time I got in it. But it didn't seem to drain. Didn't boil over, I guess would be the term. And then I changed the radiator. It was in November of that year. Oh, it was cold. Oh, it was so cold changing that radiator because I had to drain the fluid out of it and the system. And of course, the car only sits 4 or 5 inches off the ground normally. And I didn't really have anything to put it up on, so I was doing I figured she was continue pulling in, and I smacked her rear end. Of course, her rear end was a steel bumper. It was just the bumper that I hit, so it didn't do anything to her car, but it shattered my passenger headlight, scrunched up my hood, pushed back my quarter panel, and shattered my power steering reservoir. That was a fun fix on that car. So I pulled it around over to a store that was nearby that I knew somebody that worked there, and I was like, hey, I just had an accident. My car isn't drivable. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to try to get it as soon as possible. And they're like, okay, yeah, just let me know what's going on. So I ended up having to get it towed home. And I looked it up. A new power steering reservoir was like $100. And I didn't have $100 to spare at the time. So me being the resourceful redneck that I am, I went to a salvage yard and I found another Neon with it. And I just took the whole power steering assembly. I think it cost me like $30. And I'm glad I took the whole assembly because I went to take it off my Neon and I couldn't get it off because the torque bolts, because that was what it was using instead of regular bolts, were stripped out. The torque wrenches I had wouldn't undo it. So I had to change the whole pump and reservoir and its assembly. And I got back on the road. I think I found a used headlight while I was there getting the pump. So I had headlights on the front end. And I just kind of took the quarter panel off and hammered it out, fixed it, put it back where it went, and did the same thing with the hood. I messed up the little fiberglass bumper I had and split it in about 3 places, so that got stuck back together with zip ties. So yeah, the front of that car got pretty beat up in the 4 or 5 years I had it. Everybody started calling it the Frankenstein car because of the stitches and stuff where I zip tied, baling wired the bumper together and had everything put back together and falling apart all at the same time on the front end. It's a pretty cool little car. Didn't have much power. It was decent on gas, but I drove a long way to work and back, so it wasn't great on gas. Pretty fun. I ended up putting a system in it. I had 2 tins and a box in the trunk facing the seats so that I still could use some of my trunk space, even though with the box I had in the trunk of that Neon there wasn't much. And I was powering off my 1200 watt Kenwood amp, which I'm still using, but I got rid of those speakers a while back. Yeah, you could sit in the back seat of that Neon and we crank the tunes, and you'd get a nice back massage from those seats and the speakers. That was the one thing I think I gotta say that everybody liked about my little car. I had the speakers in the trunk and the amp mounted to the seat, so when I laid them down to play them, you could see the amp, and I had little LED fake neons on the speaker box and a couple on the seat. Whenever I was just hanging out and playing music, they had to have them on, and they kind of strobed to the music. That was just way before they had all these good LEDs and neons and whatever that actually had little boxes that would sense your music. This was one of those where you just kind of got to play with a timer strobe switch and kind of get it close to what you think would be good with the music and then leave it there. at that point I had another truck that I was driving. It was not long after the power steering incident. Another funny story. I was driving home from work and I noticed that my car was overheating. Come to the conclusion that my car was not shifting out of first gear. So I was doing 60 miles an hour down the highway in first gear. And I'm lucky I didn't blow it up with that, but I always kept a jug of water or two in my car just because. So I had to pull over and dump as much water as I could into it, and it cooled down real good. I sat there and I let it idle for a minute or two and make sure it took all the water it could take to cool it off. Because at the time I didn't have a lot of radiator fluid in it, it was mostly water. I think it was right around the time I was changing out the thermostat in it. I didn't have radiator fluid, and the radiator fluid I took out of it was old and nasty. It wasn't no good no more, so I just put water back in it because it was summer. Yeah, ended up getting it home, fiddling with it, driving around, and then I just found out that it wasn't shifting. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. And you might ask, well, how did you know it wasn't shifting, or didn't realize it wasn't shifting? Did you not hear it? Well, right around the same time that was happening, I had a wheel bearing going out. So it was already having to work a little bit harder than normal to drive because the wheel bearing was going out. And it was making a funky noise from that, and it was already having to rev higher than normal to drive because of that. Yeah, not long after that incident, that's when I did that wheel bearing. Because that was a learning experience. And I'm glad I had a friend that had a 1-inch socket, because those hub nut or those wheel axle shaft, CV axle shaft nuts are 1 inch or an inch and a quarter socket size. Which that was a learning experience doing that one. But yeah, got all that fixed. Found out that it was a backyard for that.
There's a speed trap ahead.
I had to find a truck that had the plug with it in it. I ended up having to pull the wiring harness of that truck out as much as I could. Cut the wires way back. Ended up having to graft that back into the wire harness that was in the truck. And then I bought a second-hand cheap radio off Facebook and stuck it in there, and it was great. Of course, the 2 months I drove it around before that was horrible until I got that little Bluetooth speaker. Oh, then I come to find out that the people that had it before me had either overloaded the springs in the truck or they had put them in upside down. And the funny thing was is there was only 3 leaf springs in the truck at all. Like total. There was 1 full leaf spring on one side, and then there was 2 half of a pieces of leaf spring on the other. And I found that out the hard way when I was driving in the mud. I was starting to spin tires, so I kind of kept it spinning until I caught traction. When I caught traction, I heard a thud, and that was my drive shaft snapping, or my leaf spring snapping right at the bolt. Which by that point I had fixed my Neon, and I could drive that one on occasion, but I stuck to my truck just because I like the 5-speed. Yeah, I've had a lot of old, wore out vehicles, so I've just gotten to the point where I want something new. Well, not new, but something that's not old, doesn't need every maintenance object required after so many miles done to it. Yeah, that Neon was at like 350,000 miles when that timing belt went, and I don't think it had ever had a timing belt changed on it, so that's saying something for that. And then that Mazda, I think the 4 or 5 years I owned it, I never changed the plugs. I don't think I ever did the wires. I did the oil change though. I changed the oil in about 3 or 4 times. Good Lord, the things I hauled around in that truck. Little 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive with the front axle and drive shaft removed, which that was hilarious. Yeah, someone was selling a 4-wheel drive truck with a front axle and drive shaft removed. Never got it, never had it, never mentioned it. Daydreamed about putting it back between 4-wheel drive, but after I looked into it, there was so much that it would take to do it. And then what else was there? Oh, the tires. I had to put tires on that truck because when I bought them, they were slicks with wires showing because somebody was using it for donuts or burnouts or whatever, or they were swapping tires off whatever had already eaten the tires from something else onto it. It was a Mazda with a Ford engine with cheap Grand Cherokee rims, which I thought that was hilarious. They had 15-inch Jeep Grand Cherokee rims, and I was running mud tires on it, all terrains, because I figured it was a 2-wheel drive, but had the 4-wheel drive chassis, and might as well keep it to the point where if I had to, I couldn't go mudding or anything, but I could get through a yard or grass or some dirt without tearing up a set of road slicks. still had the neon. Might have been when the Mazda wasn't running right. No, it wasn't. I just had a buddy that was selling his Ranger, and I told him, like, if he ever sold it, I'd like him to let me know. That's what I'm driving now. It's an 04 XLT extended cab 4-wheel drive 4.0 Ranger. 4-wheel drive works in it great. Kind of gets buggy sometimes because of the electric control. Just stuck a set of new tires on it 2 years ago with a new set of rims, because the factory rims were aluminum. They were starting to oxidize where the paint was peeling, and I didn't have the time to try to figure out what it would take to get them clear coated or whatever. Got some Halo. Is it Halo or Hilo? Yeah, Hilo looking bullet holes. Hilo brand bullet hole looking rims, there we go. Except they're not circles, they're D cutouts. Yeah. Oh good lord, I've been talking for almost an hour. I think I will have to cut this one up into sections at least. There ain't no way in hell that anybody's gonna want to watch this thing for an hour. At least not me ranting about nothing. I'll get off here and try to find something else to keep myself occupied. I've been jabbing for almost an hour. If I end up adding this to a video or upload or whatever, and you get to this point, and for the 3 views that I've had for the last 2 videos, give me a comment. Tell me to shut up. Tell me to talk about something else. Tell me to quit bitching. Give me an idea to talk about something. Yeah, this is mainly a vlog, but I'd like to be entertaining since you're taking the time to watch it. I'd hate to be the guy that's just getting on here rambling, posting videos, and I catch you with a snazzy title and then it's depressing to watch because the guy's just moping and groaning. So this is me signing off. I might post this as a whole, or I might break it up considering it's an hour long. I don't know. I did not realize how long it took to upload a video to YouTube. That was a learning experience. My first 40-minute video was 5 gigs. And then my second 20-minute video was still 3 gigs. So tell me how that math works out. How does a 40-minute video 5 gigs and a 20-minute video 3 gigs?